What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another install demonstration. Today I'm going to be showing you the installation of this Camel Adv luggage rack. It's a great rack for those not looking to add a lot of weight to the bike. It's perfect for securing small bags, tail bags, duffel bags, rackless luggage systems, but not made for a top box. So if that's something you're looking for, this is not the rack for you. It does involve drilling a couple of holes in the rear fender. And I'm going to go over all of that step by step. Let's first go over to the toolbox and I'll show you the tools that I used to get this installed. All right, real quick, let me go through a list of the tools that I used to do this installation. Okay, first of all, you'll need a T30 Torx head screwdriver, also a T40, either screwdriver or socket type driver. You'll need a 5 and a 6 millimeter Allen. I also have some T-handle Allens, which come in handy to help speed things up. 10 millimeter socket, an extension, and a ratchet. You'll also need a hammer, an assortment of drill bits, a drill, and you'll also need this step bit, which is included with the luggage rack. Now, this installation will involve drilling a couple of holes in the rear fender in order to mount the rack onto the bike. Let's go on over to the bike and get started. Okay, my first step is going to be to remove the seat. The next step will be to remove the 3 bolts that hold on this side panel. And then we can remove the panel. There's a rubber grommet on the inside that holds it in. Just give it a straight pull and it should come right out. And now I can repeat that process on the other side. Next, I need to remove the tail section. To remove that, there are the 4 luggage clips or luggage pins on the sides of the fenders. There's 5 bolts here on the top, 1 push pin on each side on the sides of the fender, and there's 6 more bolts on the underside. These pins take a T40 Torx head. Just be careful when you're putting these back on because they are pretty brittle. It's aluminum, and if you over tighten them, they can break easily. These upper bolts are 4 millimeter Allen. And for these little snap pins, you just press the center in and then remove the pin. And now we have the 6 bolts on the underside. We can now remove the fairing off of the tail section. Just open it up a little bit and slide it straight back and it'll come right off. Okay, and now under the tail section, I have an aftermarket tail tidy, but the factory one will look similar. You're going to take the 2 bolts that are more towards the rear of the motorcycle and remove those 2 bolts. And for that, I'm going to use a 10 millimeter socket on an extension. Okay, so now if we look at the top of the tail section, you can see these two nuts. There's one located right there, and one here. These are the two nuts that held the two bolts that we just removed. The kit is supposed to have a bolt that you thread into one of those nuts from the bottom in the same place that we just removed the last two bolts, and knock it out with a hammer to knock these nuts out. These are called an embedded or captured nut. For some reason my kit didn't include that, but I do have a bolt lying around, 8mm thread that will work for that, or 6mm thread I think. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that from the bottom and we can knock those out. This part is pretty simple. Don't let it intimidate you because it's not a hard process. Basically you just thread this in until the threads are flush with the top of the nut. That way you have a lot in there biting on it. And then you'll take a hammer and just hit on it until it breaks loose. Then you can remove the nut from the top, and you can see we were able to knock the nut off of the frame. Okay, and I can show you that one more time from the top side. Again, you thread the bolt in till it's about flush with the top of the nut. Then you can take a hammer. I have a small ball peen hammer. Take a hammer. That breaks the nut loose. And now we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, now I want to temporarily reinstall the fairing. Keep in mind that there is a rubber grommet on here that does like to pop off, so keep an eye on that thing. And there's a small pocket for that to fit in. Just basically open it up on here. Make sure that it catches that grommet, and make sure that it falls into place and that the holes line up. Now we just want to put a few bolts in here just to hold it down, so we have to drill a pilot hole from the bottom, and we don't want this lifting up or moving around while we do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in the few bolts here at the top and tighten these down and see how that looks. Okay, I think that should hold everything into place while we drill those two holes. Okay, and for this I just used found the closest drill bit I could find to the size hole that we're going to be drilling for the pilot. I think it's like a 19/64. So basically, just put the drill into the hole, and you want to make sure that you just go straight. Don't want to go too much on the side or put any angles on it, because you want to get that hole as close to the top of this as you can. Okay, and then we do the same thing for the other one. Okay, and once your holes are drilled, you can remove the bolts again and remove the tail section one more time. Okay, now this is where my instructions differ a little bit from the ones on the Camel Adv website. The next step is drilling out the holes for the adapters using the included step bit. They show it being drilled out on the bike. The only issue I have with that is there is a wire harness that's very close to where this is being drilled, so I don't want to risk having to replace the wire harness on the bike. So I'm going to drill it over here on the table, and they do tell you can do it either way, but they show it being drilled on the bike, and that's not something I feel too comfortable with. So we want to drill a 20mm hole. These are marked, so basically the second to last hole is where we need to go. And you just go in slowly. There we go. So that's the 20mm hole. That looks like it gives us plenty of room. Now we'll do the other one. Okay, I think we're good. Okay, so now we can reinstall the rear fender. Again, be careful that this little pocket lines up with this rubber grommet. Press it down, slide it forward, and it should drop right into place. Now the hardware can be reinstalled. Really no particular order. Okay, we can now take the two threaded adapter sleeves. We're going to use a Allen head bolt with a washer from the bottom. And if you drilled your holes in the right spot, this should go on pretty straight. We're going to leave it a little bit loose so that way we have some room to line up the rack itself. So we don't want to tighten it all the way just yet. All right, now I can take one of the longer bolts with the Allen head with the recessed washer, slide it in through here, put in a spacer. That is going to mount right here on this side. And then I can do the same thing over here on the right side. I can go ahead and get these started. These are slotted holes, so it gives you a little bit of leeway, a little bit of movement if you need it to line everything up. I'm going to put a little medium strength Loctite on these bolts. Now we can go ahead and tighten everything down. If you need to get a wrench on the inside of here, you can to hold those adapters. And now with the 5mm Allen socket and extension, tighten the bolts on the bottom. Again, just keep an eye on those adapters. If you see them starting to turn, you can put a wrench in there between the adapter and the luggage rack. Then you can reinstall the luggage spools. Don't forget, these things are brittle and they can break really easy, so don't tighten up too much. Just a little past snug is good enough. And then lastly, we can drop the seat back on. There we go. Okay guys, that's going to wrap up yet another one. I think it looks good. It's kind of minimalistic, which is what I was going for. I said from the start that anything that I added to the bike, I was hoping to minimize the amount of weight that I add to it. So this is a pretty basic rack, perfect for securing small duffel bags or tail bags, even rackless luggage systems. I do have a set of pannier racks that I'm going to be putting on next. So I'm excited to show you those, and we'll get this thing fitted out and ready for some traveling. So I guess that's about it. If you got any comments, questions, or suggestions, drop them down below. Hit that like button, please subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one.